Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Subscribing to My Podcast. Because I have a new guest on the show every week, it's very difficult to get consistent viewership. So if there's one thing that you can do to support me and the guest featured on my show, is by interacting with the video. You can always unsubscribe later if you hate me or the content. Without further ado, here's your episode with Samara Torno is an RA in Barton Lyon Freeman, one of my coworkers, and has been that way for a year. And she's been hankering to be on the show. And we wanted to talk a little bit about nutrition and a little bit about relationship advice and stuff like that, mostly because she's a culinary food science major. But also, I just really enjoy talking to her. She makes me laugh a lot. But Samara, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell some of the viewers the important things they should know about you.
Hello. My name's Samara. I am a junior in culinary food science, just like Elijah said. I'm also the vice president of WH, which is an ISU hip hop club. Super fun. And then I am also here for a good time, not a long time. right. For episode 1 of 100. But yeah, I guess one of the things I'm most interested in is academically, you're a junior or senior this year? I'm still a junior, yes.
Still a junior. So you've been doing this for a couple years in your major. What have you learned? What's your journey through food science?
I think, honestly, it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the major a lot more than I thought I would. Because in high school, I was a big art kid. So flipping all the way from doing a lot of the liberal arts to doing a hardcore STEM major was a lot for my freshman brain. I felt like I was having an identity crisis, and I was like, this is not who I am. Yeah. What is going on? But honestly, I've actually really, really enjoyed the course. It gives you a lot more hands-on than I feel like other courses give you. In a lot of our labs, it's us actually cooking the food and then being able to break down its chemical structure, its physical attributes, and things like that. So that's been a really, really fun hands-on aspect of the major. And it's also, the major won't really ever go out of style or out of vogue, I guess, because everyone has to eat at some point. So I'm always pretty much guaranteed a job, which is also just a nice aspect to have when you're looking at your future.
Yeah, we both know Drew because we're in the and I had him on too, and he was a little bit more focused on food tastes good, and I want to make it taste good.
Yeah,
and I know it tasted good because I had some of his food, and it was awesome. This is why I chose him as my roommate. But what are your interests within culinary food science? What are you looking to do?
Within culinary food science, R&D is a lot of people's main dream, being able to create and execute a product and then have it on the shelves. It's the magnum opus of most food science people, which I think is a really, really great dream to have. But personally in mine, I want to look into more formulating more nutritionally dense products for lower income families, just because I came from a lower income family, and being able to afford good tasting food that's nutritionally dense while still being able to afford necessities and things like that have been a really big part of how I grew up, and I guess I want to be able to give back to that community that I came from.
Yeah, and so are you more on the product creation side, or are you more on the nutrition end, or are you more on the taste thing, or is it a combination of the first two because that's where you're wanting to go?
It's more of a combination of the first two. Being able to look at formulations and seeing how they break down in your micros and macros are really, really important, especially within the new consumer mindset of wanting to know what's in their food and how it affects their body. That's been a really big turnaround from compared to what it was 20 years ago. And it's just oh, it's Cheetos. They look cool. They taste good. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the Cheeto. But a lot of people are what are in those Cheetos? Is there anything in those Cheetos that can harm me later down the line? And that has been a really, really big change in the food market. But I feel it's a very valid change, because at some points that you just don't quite know what you're eating. You know what it looks like, but you don't know what it came from.
Yeah. And what do you think when you're thinking about low-income food sources? What is coming to mind as an issue, or what are some of the things that you experienced or know about?
A lot of the low-income foods tend to not be as nutritionally dense. It's a lot of sodium-based and a lot of carb-based, because that's what helps keep people satiated. But even being for people to being able to afford eggs, meat, things like that, it's a lot harder to come by, especially in lower income. There are good resources such as food banks and stuff like that, but you're not guaranteed to get the same amount of the same things every time. So it's kind of hard to create those meals when you don't quite know what you're going to get. So I feel being able to have meals or ready to eat meals that are still nutritionally dense and still good for the body, but still not breaking your wallet either, is a really, really important one of my dream products that I want to make.
Yeah, because I was thinking, like, I watched this guy on YouTube who traveled across the United States with a penny. And so it was like step one is like trade, and he only had a couple bucks. Bro ate at McDonald's every single day because the McDonald's app makes things dirt cheap. And it is gross, terrible for you food. You know what I mean? And I just feel like it's getting to a point now where that stuff is more affordable than it would be to like grocery shop.
Oh no, 100%. From when I was in a couple of my classes, we had to do research on different topics, and the topic of food deserts versus food swamps was a really
swamps. I have not heard this term.
So a food desert, a lot of people you can assume from like the word desert, but food desert is when there's not enough like produce or fresh foods that are available in an area, or you have to travel for longer distances. So usually the distance is around like 30 minutes. If you have to travel 30 minutes in order to get like groceries, you're considered living in a food desert. So a lot of like the rural Iowa or rural areas in America tend to suffer from food deserts because they have to travel so far, like maybe like a couple times a week just to get groceries. But on the flip side, there's food swamps. So in a food swamp, there's a ton of like, it's basically what you think of like when you think Ames, Iowa, pretty much. There's just huge strips of like fast food and takeout foods. And in all honesty, it's cheaper than having to go to the store and then trying to figure out how to cook for yourself. So that's what pulls in a lot of people because it's fast, it's convenient, and it's cheap. But it's not giving the nutrients that your body needs. So it leads to another obesity crisis, high blood pressures, things like that, just overall health issues because even though like it's not good for you, it's what you can afford.
Yeah, what are some of these proposed, like what do you think, other than the fact that there's so much fast food in this area, is there like a cultural thing happening right now that is promoting people to eat like this? Like where do you think the people are at when it comes to eating healthy? Because you say these things and I'm like, oh, hell yeah, you know what I mean? But obviously it's still an issue, so
I think a lot of it is like a lot of the college student mindset where you're basically going from class to class, or maybe people are going out and getting lit on the weekends, getting lit on the weekends, and they're just looking for something to grab, something to eat quick, something to shove something to eat when they're drunk. So it's just a lot of that junk food mindset that a lot of people, like college students, tend to have just because we live such fast-paced lifestyles. But in all honesty, within like, even if you're looking on social media, there's been a really big flip on like how you're eating. And it's a lot of people want to eat a lot more clean, like keto. I can go on a whole tangent about keto though. But like keto, pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, trying to eat really, really clean, which is what a lot of people are trying to look for. But in all honesty, some of the preservatives that people are scared of are preservatives that we eat in everyday life that won't actually harm you. But a lot of them can kind of come from scare tactics from a lot of wellness brands being like, hey, if you eat this, it could give you cancer, but most things can give you cancer.
Yeah.
But a lot of it is just being able to do your own research and thinking for yourself instead of clicking on the first BuzzFeed article being like, these 10 things can give you cancer. And the first one's like McDonald's is like, well, okay.
My microwave gives me cancer, probably. Like, so it's a Hot Pocket at home.
Yeah. And a lot of it is even in, like, there's this one math formula where it's like, what's the lethal dosage of ice cream? And you'd have to eat like 30 pints in order to die from ice cream, but you would die like 10 pints in just purely from like the sugar content of what you're eating from the 10 pints of ice cream. So that's like it's like a fun paradox to look at, as like lethal dosage compared to the lethal dosage of its ingredients. And it kind of gives you a perspective of like, if you eat this in moderation, you're going to be completely fine.
Right. Well, and it's hard because with a lot of dieting, you have to balance your enjoyability of life as well as being healthy. I think one of the big problems, and this is something that you said with talking about like carcinogens and talking about things that are supposed to give you cancer.
Yeah.
The problem is, I feel like, and I've stood on my soapbox in a few episodes recently about this, but I think the problem is that people are generally overcomplicating to where they don't make any decision, as opposed to just making a baseline decision and just choosing that. So there'll be something like this where it'll be like, I need to take out all carbs because like carbs make you fat, and it's like this big thing where it's like, this is this amount of carbs, and it's like, but if you're eating too much, you're eating too much. You should just eat less. And don't worry about the carbs right now. Like, you have much bigger issues than just carbs.
I think it's also just, even if you look on social media, there's been this really big uptick on eating disorders. And people are almost glamorizing that kind of lifestyle, which is really, really concerning, especially for younger generations. Like that kind of eating style where it's like, oh, I just had a bite of cake today. That's going to be pretty much it today. I'll have like a bottle of water. Like that's just not sustainable at all. And we shouldn't be showing that to other people. Like even that is what you ate all day, you shouldn't be pushing that out to other people, because that can affect other people and like change, be like, oh, like if she can eat like a little piece of cake to like today, maybe I can just like go like for like just a bottle of water and maybe a handful of chips and then like I'll be good. Like that's not something we should really be glamorizing either, because that's just can lead to like a really, really dangerous aspect for other people.
Yeah, and this is really interesting. I feel like a lot of my nutritional advice and knowledge comes from the perspective of weight loss and gain. But there's this whole other category that's equally important about health, about like having your body perform in the way that it should. When I talk about things, I go with the assumption that a person is healthy. They just don't look the way they want to look. Yeah. And that's the problem that they're addressing. But I imagine as a culinary food science major, you have a lot more to say about like actual like health, like making sure that you are operating in a way that's good.
Yeah. So within our curriculum, we take a multiple like nutrition courses. And a lot of it, from what I've learned and what it comes down to, is don't punish yourself because you like food. That's only going to lead to terrible things. One of the best mindsets I've ever heard about food is like, eat what you want, add what you need. So saying like, oh, like I want a slice of pizza. I'm like, well, I'll add like a side salad to get in some fiber, get in some veggies. Don't punish yourself because you enjoy food, because that's not gonna give you a healthy mindset later down the line. Or even like, hey, like I really want pancakes this morning. How about I do protein pancakes and then I add like peanut butter and like banana? Like just making those kind of choices without punishing yourself for enjoying those kinds of foods, I feel like is really, really important in order to have a healthy relationship with food.
Do you feel like a lot of the problem with the current like maybe like obesity epidemic comes from poor nutrition or like eating too much? Like, or a combination of both, I guess.
I feel like it's really a combination of both, because even, like, I remember when I was younger, we had, like, healthy plate or, like, healthy snacks, how to make healthy choices. And I think they lost funding for that, or they just stopped doing it when I was in elementary school. So it feels like kids just don't quite understand, like, how to make better choices for themselves. Or even within, like, the household, they might not be able to afford those healthier choices. So they're just snacking on what they can afford. So it's kind of like a balance of in between, like not having proper nutrition and then also just not having enough exercise and things like that. Because a lot of times, like nowadays, like a lot of parents don't even want to let their kids outside because it's crazy dangerous in some areas. So it's really, really hard to encourage kids to get outside, because they're like, well, if I stay inside and just go on my phone, I'm going to be safe at home and it's going to be fine. But I really feel like it's just an improper balance of either like education about nutrition, because even if you go online and try and look up best ways to like lose weight or best ways to like hit your macros, it's not a one size fits all. And I feel like dieting has become like, if this doesn't work for you, I just don't know what to tell you, because it worked for me, but it's not gonna, everyone's body is different. And if everyone's body was the same, our like genetic pool would be absolutely screwed. And I feel like it's important to not punish yourself because you don't look like everyone else. It's okay to look different, but as long as you're working towards what you think you want to do and being able to keep that mindset of maintaining health, maintaining what you believe is healthy, and maintaining like how you like your body to feel, I feel like that's really, really important.
Yeah, and I super agree. I do feel like there is this balance though of like, punishment is really important. Not, I guess, punishment, but doing uncomfortable things and doing hard things is crucial for your mental health, becoming the person that you want to do, achieving goals, and being who you need to be. And I feel like food is one of those commonly unpunished things, as in people kind of just eat what they want, and in moderation, this is a good idea. But surely there's a little bit of like give and take where you should be like, your life is not supposed to be comfortable primarily, or as in like there are things that you should be doing to achieve growth. You need to be uncomfortable. You need to do something hard and overcome it, right? And I think the same is true for food and health. So like with every step towards eating whatever you want you take, you also take a step down of like eating healthier, moderating how much you eat, something
Yeah.
like this.
I feel like, honestly, even like some people, I know it also just depends upon the person, but having like a calorie tracker or like a food tracker can also help kind of rein in what you're eating and like how you're consuming food. Because honestly, I feel like within like dieting culture, it's really, really important to have moderation, but also I don't want someone to like feel like they can't eat the things they enjoy, or finding healthier alternatives to the things they enjoy is like really, really important. Like I remember like a huge trend was like chicken pizza, where they used like the ground, like the shredded canned chicken to make the pizza crust, and then they topped it with like Caesar salad, which is a great alternative for pizza. Like if you don't want to eat all the carbs, or if you want like a healthier alternative, that's really, really important. Or even with when people don't like I might personally, my partner, he does not enjoy vegetables. He's not the biggest person for vegetables. But don't be afraid of seasoning, please. You're allowed to season things when you're on a diet. It's okay, I swear. Because even I know a lot of people tend to be like, well, if I season it, it'll add calories. It's like less than like 1 calorie. Yeah. It's okay. You can use seasoning. I promise. I promise
crazy.
you can use seasoning.
Please use seasoning, actually. Like how to leave a diet as quickly as possible. Don't season any of your food.
Yeah.
Just
like
crazy.
some of those guys that like go to like convos and stuff, they'll get like the baked chicken thigh and rice, and I'm like, you are one strong soldier, because
you better have a cabinet of seasoning in your dorm that you're about to use.
I'm like, oh, that's tough.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things you said about tracking, that's been my gospel for the last, I don't know, a couple months, as I've been doing a lot of research on gaining and losing weight, like effectively doing these things. I think, and the thing that I've said, and I'm very curious how you feel about this, I think in any goal, particularly with weight loss or weight gain, the only thing you need to do is track how much you're eating. That's it. And I feel like all of the nutrition, the exercise, all of these things are secondary to the net calorie intake and versus outtake.
Yeah.
And of course there are other things that you might need to keep track of. Mm-hmm. Like if you have a ton of acne, you probably should lay down on the saturated fats and oils. Or if you find that you're very tired all the time, maybe stop eating carbs and eat protein for long-term energy. Stuff like this.
Yeah.
There are secondary things, but they're all secondary towards you should be eating the correct amount for your goals of food. How do you feel about this?
I feel like that's a really, really good point, and being able to have a goal of what your goal weight and how much you should eat per day is really, really important. I also just think for some people, if they have had an issue, history of eating disorders, maybe avoid that at first, just because that could be triggering to some people. So I feel like that's really important, but also just having someone to hold you accountable as well. Or being able to either having a gym buddy or someone that you go to eat lunch with and being hey, let's go get food together and just hang out and have someone else with you. Because I feel once you're by yourself, especially within doing something as tough as dieting can be, having someone else to keep you in check or help encourage you to make those choices are really, really important. But I feel like overall dieting it can be a useful tool, but I also feel like it should be really, really important that you are doing it in a safe way, because it can go downhill really fast.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple really important caveats with dieting. I think one of the biggest things is that when you're dieting, it's not a month-long thing. It's if you shouldn't pick it up if it's not going to be something that you do until you die.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you even attempting to do? You know what I mean? So one of the things with tracking calories and stuff that I found was really interesting is that I made you don't have to make any diet changes about what you're eating. Eat as unhealthy as you want. Eat whatever you need to, just stay under that calorie goal. Mm-hmm. Because what it does is it makes you realize the things that you're eating and attributing that to how you feel. So I was eating 8 cubes of cookie dough. You know what I mean? And I would put that into my calorie tracker. It's like, have that. It's like, crap, I wasted 700 calories on cookie dough today. Like, that's a bad thing to do, but I still got to eat what I wanted to do.
Right.
So then I saved 200 calories a day so that I could munch on some cookie dough. Or like, you know what I mean? And it's stuff like this that's like, you're not necessarily making cuts on what you're eating. And that's why I say, like, with the triggering effects of maybe people who've had bad relationships with food, I feel like you're not necessarily sacrificing a lot of who you were, you're just keeping track of it. And it also counts when you eat over. Like, whatever. You know what I mean? Eat more than what you're supposed to.
It's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I think it's also, like, even with, like, I feel like calorie counting is going to be the most accurate for most people because water weight is a big fluctuator. Because if you're going to weigh yourself every morning and you had, like, water right before you went to bed and you haven't gone pee yet, you're going to have, like, an extra, like, 7-8 ounces in your body. And then you're like, why did I gain weight? I've been, like, going under my calorie count limit. I've been working out. And it's just, your physical body weight fluctuates so much. I feel like that's not a good indicator of how healthy you are. I feel like being healthy is truly based on how you feel like you perform, like how your body performs, and how you're doing mentally. That is pretty much what I consider personally as being healthy.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah.
Jasmine, is she still here? Are you hearing are you hearing any noise in your headphones? Like it's just like static or whatever?
It's like a bouncy.
Are you hearing this on your end, Jasmine? Sometimes. I don't hear it right now anymore for some reason.
Is it mine? Do I have metal on my shoulder?
For a few seconds. Yeah, it's your magnet. It's your magnet hitting it. Okay, I don't hear it now, so maybe it'll be good. Not sure. Okay. Anyway, we'll cut that out, which I normally don't do, but everyone knows. But yes, weight is an awful metric to use for like what it should be. Obviously, you're gonna have weight goals that are probably related to how you want to look.
Right.
But like, if you're gonna weigh yourself, it needs to be at the exact same time every single day. I lost 7 pounds in the shower. You know what I mean? Like in 15
like,
minutes.
Did you like waffle stomp?
Yeah, I was really busy in that. It was like a 4-hour long shower. But no, I'm serious. Like, I weighed myself before, and then I weighed myself after, and I was like 7 pounds lighter. I was like, what the heck was that? You know, it's so inconsistent to weigh.
It's just not a good metric either, because if you stand slightly different, it'll read something completely different.
Yeah, and it's crazy too, and it's even worse for women too. Like hormonally, like you just change a lot of what's going on, like depending on like when it is or like even just the day. You know what I mean? So it's just an awful metric to use. But I feel like tracking your calories is just like a safe thing because it's going to tell you all these like tertiary things too about like what you're doing and how you feel. You know what I mean? Like I said, like if you feel that you're lacking a bunch of energy, you look at your protein intake, it's like, well, no wonder. You know what I mean? Or it's like, I can't work out. I feel so tired all the time. It's like, yeah, you're not eating. You don't have any carbs in you. You know what I mean? You know, so stuff like this, and it'll tell you all these things. I just feel like a lot of people, they're so obsessed with eating healthy that they do all these things that are not long-term at all. So like, I'm never going to eat anything.
Do you want to get started on long-term, how long-term keto? I hate keto. Keto can die in a ditch. I might get heat for this. I hate keto diet. It's not sustainable at all.
No, it's terrible.
It's literally the worst for you. And they're like, but I lose so much weight. Yeah, you'll lose a ton of weight as when you're on keto, but as soon as you get off keto, you're gonna gain it all back and then some. Do not do keto, for the love of God, please.
This is so valid. And that's what I'm saying. It's short-term thinking for a long-term problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what you expect to happen if you're planning on doing something for 3 months. Then what? You're just gonna go back and you're gonna be perfect? Like, no, you're not making any decisions. You know what I mean? Like, you're not making any sacrifices.
Like, I'm just saying, I'm guaranteeing you, if you go on the keto diet, you will not have a Kim Kardashian body. For the love of God. I cannot say this enough. Do not do keto. It's literally, you will be miserable. Everyone around you will be miserable because you're an asshole. Don't do keto.
This is so valid.
Don't do it.
And this might even be true for a lot of things too. Like my grandma, love her to death. She talks to me about like all of these health.
Nima Moore?
Yeah, Noni is her name. We love that. We love her. Love you, Noni. But she talks a lot about like specific diets and things that she was doing and the successes that she'd have. And it's like, I lost a ton of weight. It's like, because you weren't eating anything. That's not a good thing. That's terrible. Then it's like you lost a ton of weight because you're unhealthy, like because you just weren't eating enough. You know what I mean? And it's stuff like this.
It's like when like everyone like looks back in like history and is like, why was everyone so skinny in like the 70s? It's because they were doing coke. That is literally why they were all on coke and drugs. They're like, back in the day, everyone was skinny because they were on drugs.
Yeah, and they were also wildly unhappy as well. Like more importantly.
Like I don't know what to tell you about that.
Yeah, so I don't know. And I think one of the things too people misconstrue is that eating less leads to losing good weight, which I think is just not true. This changed my perspective on everything. The one nutrition class that I took, and I see this on bro TikTok all the time, but they'll say that it's a 500 calorie deficit a week will lose you 1 pound a week, and that's just science. That's just how it is. Like if you eat 500 less than what your maintenance is, you will lose a pound a week, and I believe this. The problem is people are going to be like, but if I eat 1,500 less, I'll lose 3 pounds. And it's like, you'll also die. Or like,
that's not how your body works.
Yeah, it's like unrelated to that. You're going to put yourself into this starvation mode where you're going to start like storing stuff in ways you don't want to. You're going to lower what your base level metabolism is supposed to be. Yeah. You're going to do permanent damages if you're just going to eat less to lose weight. You know what I mean? Like it needs to be this very slow and steady deficit to get this very slow and steady weight change. And people are trying to speed run it and it just doesn't work.
It's just, if you do try and speed run it, you're going to be so miserable. Like you're going to be so unhappy, like genuinely, because you're going to basically be hangry 24/7 because you pretty much cut what you eat into like, you're eating a fourth of what you were usually eating. Like that's just not sustainable at all for your mental health or your body.
Well, and the problem is you say that to like bro scientists who, and I'm kind of one of these people who it's like, oh, it's going to be miserable? Awesome. Sign me up. Like that's the point. That's why it's going to be effective is that it's going to suck.
Are you a masochist? Like genuine.
No, but what I'll say is that like, generally the association is that things that are difficult are going to be beneficial for you. Obviously not to like this extreme. Yeah. And you got to enjoy things, right? But the problem is that they're mixing up automatically gravitating towards things that are bad and then acting like it's going to be effective. Like, yeah, it's going to suck. You're also going to still be overweight or whatever your goal is.
If anything, you might gain weight because your body's going to like major like storage mode. Like it's not nothing's gonna go nowhere.
Yes, exactly. And the same is true for gaining weight too. Yeah. Eating 500 over your deficit is going to gain you a pound a week.
Right.
And this obviously has to include the calories that you lose when you like run or work out or whatever the thing is.
Right.
And so yeah, like I feel like tracking calories was so effective in my goal to gain weight. Like I was 120 or something disgusting when I was like a freshman. You know what I mean? Like I was.
Were you like scrawny?
Oh my gosh, I was like, it's bad. Like
I've never seen a freshman picture of you.
I'll show not fresh. Well, freshman of college I was a little bit better, but especially like junior, senior year of high school, like I'll show you a picture, but like skeleton. And it took a really long time for me to be able to gain weight. And the key really was just tracking. Like measuring how much I wasn't eating enough. And I was running off all of the stuff I was eating. You know what I mean? And so it's like, of course I'm not gaining weight. I'm operating off like 1,500 calories. You know what I mean? So that was a really important lesson for me to learn that like track it. And then I had to start shoveling food down my throat. Like I had to just like keep eating and stuff like this. And I found that it was really effective. But I find that people who are trying to lose weight are focused on all of these things and they're not tracking how much they eat at all. And they're like, why am I gaining weight? It's like, because you ate 4,000 calories of chicken and rice. Like, that's still going to make you gain weight, you know? So, but yeah, I don't know. I wonder just how you feel about that.
I really think, like, overall, nutrition is a balancing act, and it's not a one-size-fits-all. And I think it's really, really important to understand that and to do what works best for you, not what works best for the gym bro on TikTok. Because he's probably has like a PT, like nutritionist on standby, and you are a 21-year-old college student. So I think it's really important just to go do it slowly and find out what works best for you. But if you like I know a lot of colleges, like even at ISU, we have access to like a nutritionist that you can go and talk to and be like, hey, this is usually what I eat, but this is like my goal and this is like how I want to feel. And they can help make like a nutrition plan for you to help go through and kind of figure out what's working best for your body.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. And there are a lot of other factors too when it comes to like gaining and losing weight. Like financially it was really expensive to bulk. And like, although I had the dining halls, which is a very obscure circumstance to be in, you know what I mean? Like, of course, even then I still had to funnel some money into like protein powder, chicken strips, whatever I needed. Yeah, like
you're
actually
like sprinkling, you're like using it as like a rub on the chicken.
No, here's actually what's OP. Okay, I would get cereal, and then I would put protein powder in the milk, and then put the cereal in it, and it'd be like a protein cereal. And it was like chocolate milked protein cereal. Super OP. Like, I would suggest this, especially like Reese's Puffs.
That sounds like gruel, dude.
It
sounds like a gruel.
It actually was much, though. Yeah, it
sounds
was
like a textural nightmare.
It actually was the Chum Bucket special.
It's like you open it, it's like,
yeah, this is true. But it was tasty. But yeah, I don't know. It's really interesting. When you're learning these things and you're talking about these things, like, do you find that there's a lot of bias or like room for interpretation when you're learning these things? Like, do you ever hear competing things from multiple professors, or like you're listening to different sources that are saying just the opposite things?
I feel like for like at least the science part of food, it's been pretty streamlined. Every time there's like a new study conducted, they'll bring it up and like be like, oh, look into it. And then if it's like turns out to be true or like substantial, we'll like expand more on it. But for the nutrition side, it's been pretty much, a lot of it's been pretty similar to like for like the same aspects. And even within my nutrition classes, they're like, it's important to like make sure you're watching your fat intake, make sure you're getting proper amount of exercise. I remember when we were talking about like the USDA like My Plate, like where it had like the big picture and it had like all the little squares and stuff. They're like, this isn't gonna be a one size fits all for a lot of people, because even like within our genetics, like some people may store more fat than others, so they're gonna have to like lower their grain intake, increase their protein intake, and then watch like their dairy intake. Or even within like dietary restrictions, like that's still, a lot of things are gonna flip. So I think the biggest like one that's been going back and forth is kind of like the government sanction, a lot of like the government sanctioned stuff, because it was done like in the early 2000s when diet culture was at its max. Like, if you want to really see real diet cultures, look at early 2000s. That was like a hellscape unlike any other. But a lot of that was like made in like 2000, 2005, and a lot of those, it kind of reflects those times, because even like as we progress as a society, our science will reflect what that society was like at the time. So even with that like early 2000s like My Plate thing, that reflects what society thought was great for like people to eat. But even now, since we've kind of had a lot more of a diversification of society, we understand that that's not going to work for everyone, and not everyone can eat like that. It just won't work.
Yeah, and so I guess like, did you feel like that stops you from making general prescriptions about what people should and shouldn't do?
Oh, 100%. I feel like you know yourself the best. You know what you eat. You know what you like. You know what you don't like. So I feel like just being able to understand what you can do as an individual to make yourself feel better, and how to appropriately make nutritional choices is pretty much, you're the only person that can really tell yourself what to do, honestly and truly. So
yeah, and that's really interesting, because I don't know, like on a face level, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, and I think it comes mostly just from like having to accept that like I'm wrong on a lot of things, just like on a day-to-day basis.
Oh, 100%.
And one of those things, like I have a lot of urges that are just like bad to do. Like, you know, you're driving and then you just want to like, you know, like it's just funny. Like, you know what I mean? Just stuff like that you have to subdue and you have to stop, like feelings like that. Or like, you know, I don't even, like you want to say something to somebody that's really mean, but you're like, I wouldn't say like I would encourage
them doing like what they want to do all the time. Right, but like more like encouraging them to like make the right choice for themselves.
Well, and that's where I say like a step away from that, not only doing wrong things, but you can just do incorrect things. You can just be wrong. Right. You know what I mean? And so like a lot of these gym bros that are forcing themselves to eat chicken and rice, like they're making a decision
they
that they
could literally
think is
make fried rice and add more vegetables. I'm just saying, chicken fried rice is delicious.
It's this, well, and that's what I'm saying. You know, they think that they're doing the thing that's right for them, but obviously you would have a different prescription for them.
I feel like at the end of the day, I could recommend things to people, but I don't have the power to like make them do this.
I see.
I can use from my experience and my knowledge to try and help them the best, but at the end of the day, they're the person that has to make the choice for themselves. And I feel like having that autonomy is really, really important, especially within like your body image and nutrition. Being able to make that autonomy, even though I may say it's different, and be like, hey, I'd really recommend you should probably not just eat chicken and rice all day. Add in like at least some fruit or something. Mm-hmm. They might be like, I mean, that's okay, but like I don't think I'm gonna do that. And I'm like, well, I tried. And I think also just since I'm not a doctor, so I can't really make like you have to do this. But I think just as like a concerned member of society, I can really just try and like do what I think is right and try and recommend them things that I believe that can help them. But at the end of the day, they're the ones that have to make those choices for themselves.
Yeah, and that makes sense too. And I think people are way too judgy when it comes to these things too. Like the standard of what is a really good decision or like a really good person,
it's like a moral,
really way too high. Like people look very average, and they should. You know what I mean? Like that's what average means, is that most people look this way.
It's not a crime to look average. It's okay. I swear.
Yeah, people's standards are definitely too high. Like
I also feel like social media is a really big proprietor of making people feel like they are more holier than thou. And making feel like they have to be like above the best, especially like either physically or socially. They feel like they have to be like the best of the best. And I feel like that really also goes hand in hand with diet culture. It feels like those things lock hands and walk down the hill.
Yeah, and this is very true too. And I think on the other end of the coin too, it does allow for a lot more internal locus of control, and that like seeing something like, we are a lot more poised to do what we want to do and what is best for us now than we ever were.
Right.
Because you get to see some random person on TikTok who lives 100 miles away from you inspire you to go and do something totally cool.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a really cool thing too. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you have these people who make it seem as if being 6'5", 300-pound vascularity, like super muscular giant is like normal.
It's like the picture of the guy that has like road rage and it's just like worms on his arm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's how I'm supposed to be, but I'm really just a dude. You know what I mean? So it's just not the same. So yeah, that's really interesting. I guess any overarching things you want to say about nutrition, or just about like how the world is working in terms of food, like.
I think honestly, when you're looking at, we can talk about the nutrition label, because if you look on the nutrition label, even if you look at sugar, I don't know if you've ever looked at like the sugar content of foods, but a lot of times they don't have like the DV of sugar. It's just like 12 grams and there's no percentage behind it. It's because Big Sugar paid off the nutrition label.
Big Sugar is crazy. Okay.
Because a lot of people, like, if you see like a high amount of sugar, they're like, oh, that's a lot of sugar. Like, have you ever looked at like the label on like a bottle of Coke for like sugar?
It's criminal.
It's like 40 grams sugar, and I'm like,
that's a full meal, by the way.
Yeah.
Like in some places.
It's just like liquid food, actually.
Yeah, I know.
It's like,
seriously, a can of Coke being 250 calories is actually robbery.
This is why I drink Diet Coke.
Exactly, and Diet Coke tastes better, and they're lying to you.
I am tired of the Diet Coke hate.
Yeah.
This is not.
It's actually a carcinogen because it has aspartame in it, which is rat poison. Shut up, bro. It tastes good.
Well, even with that, like aspartame, you'd have to drink a criminal amount of Diet Coke to die from aspartame. You would die from the other preservatives in Coke.
That's
like,
me,
this is me. That's gonna be me tonight. Actually,
yeah, I'm overdosing on Diet Coke.
Like this, it's literally insane. They're like, well, like it's like the same thing with like Red 40. Have you been hearing all the stuff about Red 40?
Yeah, didn't it get banned? Or is this a different color?
It's still in the U.S., but it's like it's banned in a lot of European countries. But the thing about Red 40, if you look on the labels of your food, and like especially in the ingredients portion, it's listed from the most prominent ingredient to the least. And if you're reading that label, there at the very bottom is where all the dyes are. Mm-hmm. So they're like, it's like maybe like 0.002 of like dye in your food.
Me chugging my paint can with Red 40s, speed run cancer.
Like, I'm just saying, like, it, like, a lot of things are carcinogens at this point. Like, and it's also, if it breaks down in a certain way, it can become a carcinogen. if it's not broken down in that way, it's not going to be a carcinogen.
Yeah, which, I don't know. I think this is just what makes the headlines, and I think this is what...
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. People are, like, making diets off of this decision. They're like, I can't eat anywhere red 40, but I'm also just going to eat McDonald's 4 meals a day. You know what I mean? It's like, wow, you really saved yourself from the
like,
long-term harm there.
Not make sense.
Yeah, it just doesn't check out to me. But I don't know. I think it's really important. It's really cool that you're studying and you're learning about this stuff. I've always wondered how academia handles talking about...
I think especially like food-wise, it's very from like a scientific standpoint. It's not very like this is how like people feel about it. But when we do start talking about like how like the consumer feels about food, we're gonna look in at like texture analysis, like how it tastes, and like overall like the consumer what's the consumer's opinion. Like actually, if you were in the stores last year, there was an Eggo Pop-Tart. I don't know if you ever saw it.
No.
But an ISU alum made that Pop-Tart from, like, the food science. Like, they made an Eggo Pop-Tart, and it, like, got sold in stores.
Wow.
But, like, the thing about, like, creating, like, a food product through, like, R&D is you have to look at flavor, cost, how it's going to be produced, how it's going to handle living inside the package, water activity, moisture content, texture, taste. Those are like kind of the main ones a lot of us tend to focus in for like the broad spectrum of like how to make a product. But yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were going to start.
No, you're good.
Yeah, and I think it's way too much to think about. How do you feel? Have you been keeping up with Lunchly and the new Lunchables?
Oh, is that like the one with like the Feastables?
Yeah. Did you ever?
They are extorting. In my personal opinion, Mr. Beast, please don't sue me. Prime, please don't sue me. I feel like they're extorting children, honestly and truly. They have such big presence on YouTube, and a lot of like even like I remember I was watching a video where it was like doing like the taste test, like the black like the box where they have like straw sticking. I was like, guess this, and there was like the guy was like, oh yeah, my kid made me taste this, and like put the Prime thing on there. And I was like, they are using their brand to sell towards children. And what child needs a full-size chocolate bar and a Prime bar in their lunch? Lunchables are fine. I remember there was like the whole like Twitter beef where they're like, yeah, well, Lunchables had lead. Prime? Have you seen when they went through and looked at Prime, the amount of lead that they had in some of their products? It was a lot. It was a lot.
And that's crazy, too, because everything that ever gets touched by any metal ever is going to have a trace of lead.
It's going to have trace amounts of lead, which is, like, it's unavoidable.
Yeah, it's just, like carbon. It's like a thing that happens here.
But, like, I really honestly and truly don't feel like it's coming out of, like, a place of, like, wanting to, like, give families an affordable option for lunch. I feel like it's a way of making money. And maybe it is yet to be seen if truly they are trying to like create a healthy alternative, but I don't see it as a healthy alternative at the moment.
Isn't it healthier though? Very slightly. But isn't it healthier?
It's very slightly healthier.
It's like lower calories, slightly more protein with like certain stats that look good on a billboard.
Yeah.
But like marketably it's the same thing.
I really don't feel like it's coming out of like a place of like wanting to help people. I feel like it's coming out of a place of making money with extra units of what they have.
Yeah, this is really interesting though, because it seems like then any time a YouTuber makes any product that's not expressly healthy, they're taking advantage of somebody.
I feel like it can really vary, because if you look like Rosina Pansino, this isn't...
Don't know who that is. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, she's like a really famous like cooking YouTuber and stuff. Like she has like made like she knows like she's passionate about cooking and like she knows what she's doing. So it's not out of left field for her to come out with like a cookbook or like Binging with Babish. Same thing. These people have put in the time within like cooking and understanding how it's important within the body. But compared to like Mr. Beast that does challenges, I don't feel like he's really put in the time or consideration. Maybe he has, and it's just he hasn't talked about it. Same thing with KSI and Logan Paul. Or Jake Paul? Logan Paul?
Paul's Logan, I think. Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say. And I believe that that's super true with Paul, and then KSI. However, with Mr. Beast,
Paul.
he's big enough, and as a big enough group of people, he has no input on like what, you know what I mean? Like he has a team of people who I imagine are extremely well research to make this. That doesn't mean that it's not a ploy to get money. Yeah. But I just don't think it's Senior Beast who's doing this. You know what I mean?
CEO Beast.
Yeah, like he's not in the labs cooking this. You know what I mean?
Obviously not. Yeah. But I just don't feel like it was truly like a consideration of like their true market. Because if you look at Prime, it's basically a Gatorade clone. And you look at Feastables, it's basically a Hershey's bar. Those are like the two little kid things. Those are like the two main little kid things.
That's true. Gatorade does marketably get drunken with two hands up like this, you know,
with like the lip ring.
Yeah, they're like yeah. So
but
they poured into a cup.
Maybe they did come with true intentions. I'm not trying to bash them, but from my personal perspective, I have no skin in the YouTube game though. So like, I'm just an outsider. Don't sue me.
I was gonna say, Mr. Beast is gonna come from my channel.
I'm gonna get a cease and desist in my mailbox.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah,
but even if you like talk about like. Mr. Beast also did another food venture. Like, do you remember Mr. Beast Burger during like 2020?
Yeah.
There was never an actual physical restaurant. Those were all functioned through ghost kitchens.
There was actually one physical restaurant in like California or something. But sorry, actually one. No, but yes,
Mr. Beast fanboy.
Yes,
Number one.
Yes, you're right.
But like he had one physical restaurant in California. All the rest of them functioned through ghost kitchens.
The one here was Perkins.
It was
actually out of Perkins here.
That's crazy. Yeah. But like. It's just like functioning through a ghost kitchen. I don't know if you know who Eddie Burback is.
Yeah.
But he did a whole video about looking at ghost kitchens and like how different ghost kitchens can pretty much. There's like different sections of ghost kitchens. Like there's one where it's just one within a restaurant. There's like one where there's like a couple in a strip mall, and then there's one where it's like a huge building just full of like 7 different ghost kitchens. And then within like the DoorDash app, there'll be like 8 different businesses, but they're all selling the same product, and it's coming from one ghost kitchen, but labeled as different products.
Oh, and you know, I don't necessarily instinctively see a huge problem with it, other than that like that is not how it's advertised. You're just getting like fibs.
I don't think it's necessarily like a terrible thing, but I also think it is taking away from like smaller businesses within like the communities and stuff, which is when I start to have like this isn't good. I think this is kind of an icky thing to do.
That is true. Hopefully we're not losing like market on people who want to go and eat in a restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that would be. I feel like DoorDash has had some weird effects on how people view eating and like.
I also feel like COVID was a huge part of how people view eating out as well, because having pretty much a year of like not being able to go anywhere to go out and eat, and everything gets delivered to you, it becomes a new normal. And after someone's like, well, I don't really want to go out, I'm gonna have to be like uncomfortable in public. If I can just munch down in my like on my couch in front of like a YouTube video, I'm chilling.
Yeah, and I think that's pretty dangerous for like how the future looks. I'm pretty skeptical. And I think the only good thing is that there's a big time save. If you're like the most productive person on the planet, you no longer have to cook as much or drive around to get food.
Even then, I feel like cooking is a dying art.
yeah, it's like it was already bad enough. Now you can just order Chef Mike to come do it for you, I guess. So, but DoorDash is very interesting. I'm curious to see where the Lunchly stuff goes and to see how they.
I'm just curious as to how soon they're gonna get a lawsuit.
Yeah, that lead thing was crazy.
I was like, they're like, yo, Lunchable has lead. Comes out with another lawsuit of them having lead in Prime.
Yeah, I guess next episode we'll just have to try Lunchly and then
we'll see.
Test. Yeah, we'll do a taste test. That's the real market, right? 'Cause if it tastes good. And I mean, most kids eat one Lunchable a year, so I feel like nobody's eating Lunchable every single day. I ate
the dollar version where it was just like the crackers and cheese and meat, and then had like the little like fun size one. Yeah, that's the ones I ate.
Oh yeah, those are the best.
I still eat those till
No, actually, though, they
They're
have
so
them in the
good.
vending machine in Cornerstone, and I grab them. Like, they're good.
From the vending machine.
Yeah, it's kind of cursed, but like sometimes I'm looking.
I don't trust meat from vending machines. I'm gonna be honest.
I don't trust meat from Lunchable. It's like the wettest, like slimiest nipple of meat that like I've ever seen.
Nipple is crazy.
Yeah, I've
So
never
that means you've definitely thought about like putting them on there and just like
thought about. Have done. No, don't look online. But yeah. So I wanted to chat with you a little bit about total pivot. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about long-term relationships. I thought it was cool that me and Jen are going on our 4th year.
Oh, awesome.
And spoilers, I will be proposing to her within the next. I have a date, and I'm just not saying it on camera. I'll tell you after, but it's within the next 6 months.
Does she watch
No, but she doesn't. But I'm not going to say it on camera just in case, she decides to watch it. But anyway, and I know that you've been in a relationship for about
sweet.
5 years.
Oh my
right?
God.
So I just wanted to talk about like long-term relationships and what that means to you, and then how have you been successful in a long-term relationship?
God. So I guess I'll go down memory lane and talk about. So I first met my current partner Tony. We both went to the same high school. I actually originally dated his friend in middle school.
Oh.
But it was middle school, so like doesn't count. It was like the weird middle school relationship where you're just like.
Yeah, you guys kissed on the cheek once, and it was awesome.
Not even that.
Oh, just kidding.
Not even that. Like side hugged.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, so I was single for about a year. For like about middle school single for about a year. And then I just like, we started talking because he was in my uncle's driver's ed. And I would like hang out after class because I didn't want to walk home. So I'd hang out after class and like I'd like hang out and chat to him. And then I finally got his Snapchat. God, this sounds so cringy.
Yeah.
To be fair, this was like 2019. So like getting people's snaps was still an acceptable thing to do.
Uh-huh.
But I got a snap and we straight up just like talked as friends for like 3 months. And I feel like having that boundary of like being friends before your partners is really, really important. And I'll get to that in a second. But basically, we started chatting. I asked him out on a date. He said yes. And we decided to go to the mall, and we wanted to pick a random day, so we saw nobody there. Everyone and literally my friend's grandma was there. And we were like,
official now, huh?
He said, huh. And then he asked me to be his girlfriend in front of the GameStop on November 4th, 2019.
Now that's romance.
And now this year it's going to be 5 years that we've been together. So that's kind of our...
How do you keep a relationship for 5 years?
I don't know. It really hasn't, honestly and truly, it hasn't felt like 5 years. I feel like I think even at the beginning, we really didn't take ourselves seriously. We were basically both kind of had the mindset of like, we're just going to keep dating until we don't. Like, I feel like not taking each other and be like, this is going to be the person I'm going to like be with the rest of my life. I feel like it works for some people, but I feel like I get too existential and we both get too existential about that. Like, we both obviously know we really do love each other with like our whole hearts. And I feel like being able to just have that kind of like mutual understanding and still just not taking it super seriously is kind of how we've maintained it for so long. Like, we've definitely had like arguments and everything like that. Like, every couple has arguments. Mm-hmm. And I feel like being able to like step away and understand why you were upset and kind of look at it from their perspective is really, really important in order to get over those bumps. Like, being able to like understand why you're upset, but then also try and understand why they were upset or how they would have felt in that situation is really, really important in order to have like a mutual understanding and to be able to overcome that issue.
Well, yeah. And do you guys still not take the relationship as seriously or like now, or was that just kind of something that you did? I think
at the beginning we were definitely just like, we're just gonna hang out and we like care about each other, so we're just still gonna like keep hanging out and dating. But I feel like after like the 3-year mark is when we're like, okay, so like we're locked in for this one.
Yeah. Okay.
We're locked in. 'Cause even then, I remember right before we came to college, he actually got me a promise ring before we left for college, like the summer before we left for college. and it was just like I started sobbing. Like I think I brought it up maybe once, and I was like, "You should give me a promise ring," like joking. And then he was like, "Maybe," and like left it alone. And like I remember, we like went out that day. We were like just going out, hanging out. We went to the arcade. Like we won like a big Squishmallow. So I was like, "This day's awesome." Yes,
Yeah, already.
And then he like pulled up in front of my house, and he was like, "Close your eyes," and I was like, "Okay." And he like pulled out like, or he like put up his phone and like pulled out the ring, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "It's a promise ring. This is like so you know that like." Sorry, I'm like starting to tear up.
Wow.
But like, it's like, sorry.
This is so sweet.
I love my boyfriend. But he was like, "This is like so you know that I'm always gonna be there for you in your corner, even like throughout college." And I was like, ah! Even now I still cry about it, thinking about it. But that's like I think that's like how I knew like he's like we're locked in, like we're not going anywhere. But sorry. Like I love that man with like my whole heart. Like I never expected us to get this far, but I'm so fulfilled with the relationship I have with him.
That's a really interesting perspective. Because I've always been in the relationship like I knew that I was going to marry Jenna probably 5 months into our relationship.
Really?
And I don't know if that's how I am or if that's how I viewed the relationship, but dating was always dating till marriage. Like that's just how it was.
Yeah.
And I'm not a religious person. You know what I mean? Like that's just how it was though. That's just like, why else would I do this? You know what I mean? And so it's very interesting to be like, it's just very interesting to be like, it's very interesting to be like, let's just date and then see how it goes and make it casual until like now here's a promise ring and now I have to make this decision like, oh crap, are we serious? You know, but it's really sweet that you had that kind of reaction to that.
I think it's like, I think personally for us though, it's also like how we were raised up. Like we both had single moms. So like we never, like we were like, I don't know about like commitment and stuff. I think it's just like, we're just gonna take it slow and just like not do anything super crazy. And like I feel like after like the 3-year mark, we were kind of like, yeah, we're together, and I don't think we're really ever gonna break up. I think we just both kind of had like that simultaneous like conscious like, this is just us. This is we're with each other for realsies now. Like we're not going anywhere. Yeah. And I feel like even he asked my mom about this ring and like messaged her like separate ones to, like help her pick. And I was like. And they didn't tell me shit. I was like, "You knew?" She was like, "Of course I knew."
Hearing all that stuff after is so pleasant. But we're running out of time.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give you the opportunity to kind of close this out or to summarize any of the stuff that we talked about today, or do any plugging that you wanted to do maybe for your dance group, or just anything. You just kind of have the platform and the floor to wrap us up. I've
honestly really, really enjoyed this talk. This was super fun. If you want me to come back, I'd definitely be willing to come back. We can talk a little bit more about love, a little bit more food. We could do a taste test.
This would be really fun.
We could do like a hot sauce taste test.
I'm down for all of these ideas.
But yeah, for sure. If you guys are really into dancing, check out the ISU Hip Hop Club Dub H. Super fun, super awesome, super funky, super fresh. And if you ever wanna find me on my socials, you can look up Samara. And I'll give Elijah the tag, and it'll be like somewhere around my head.
Yeah,
somewhere around my head.
It'll be in the description, guys.
Down there. Yeah. But it's Samara, like like that one. But it was awesome to chat with you, Elijah. But yeah, for sure. Let me know if we should chat again.
Yeah, thank you so much, Samara, for being on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. We will definitely do another. That was really